And there were thousands of people around, and they're screaming about, "Hey, Lucas, Rifleman. Hey, Werewolf," for promos.
The legend of Chuck Connors rivals some of the biggest names in Hollywood. After all, he left an unbeatable legacy after his 5-year role as Lucas McCain in the highly rated ABC series The Rifleman. However, his legacy wasn't the only thing he left behind. Along with his legacy was a stash of scandals and secrets that have now been revealed for all the world to see. From the role he played in Cold War diplomacy to his controversial affairs and romantic stories, Chuck Connors' hidden secrets behind the camera have finally been revealed. Want to find out? Stay tuned. Chuck Connors' rise to TV legend. Kevin Joseph Chucks Connors was born on the 10th of April, 1921, and like every kid born and raised in Brooklyn, New York City, Chuck Connors already had dreams big enough to occupy the city. He was the eldest of two, with his younger sister named Gloria Marie Connors Cole. Their parents, Marcella and Alban Francis Connors, were known to be immigrants of Irish descent from Newfoundland and Labrador, having obtained U.S. citizenship. Before becoming citizens of the United States, Chuck Connors' parents lived a hard-knock life. They struggled through the Great Depression, a time when high rates of unemployment and poverty were prevalent. His unemployed father eventually became a bank guard in New York City, and his mother worked menial jobs. This was a tough life, and it was the beginning of Chuck Connors' life. This TV legend rose to fame despite his humble and tough beginnings. Even from a young age, he was already working hard to achieve the success he would later earn. As a young boy, he started with a natural and undeniable talent for baseball. He would play on sandlots in Brooklyn, and no one could deny that he had a bright future ahead. His talents for the game took him so far that he earned himself an athletic scholarship to the Adelphi Academy, a preparatory school in Brooklyn. His love of baseball started when he became a fan of the Brooklyn Dodgers, and ever since that day, and even through their losing record during the 1930s, he dreamed that one day he would join the team. By 1939, he graduated from the academy, and in true star fashion, he had received offers for athletic scholarships from more than 24 colleges and universities. For Chuck Connors, his school of choice was Seton Hall University. At this school, he played both basketball and baseball, proving that hard work and talent pay off. Before he was Chuck, he went by his first name, Kevin, but he wasn't a big fan. He went through a phase of picking and choosing nicknames, once trying Lefty and then Stretch before finally settling on Chuck, a name that the whole world now knows him by. The endearing story of how he got his name, Chuck, often tugs at the heartstrings of fans. The story goes that he got this name during his time as a player on Seton Hall's baseball team. From his position on first base, he would repeatedly tell the pitcher, "Chuck it to me, baby, chuck it to me." Teammates and the cheering fans caught on to this line, and the rest is history. Chuck Connors' life as a jock was going swimmingly well. He had no complaints, but he also had a whole lot more to offer the world. Connors had always had a way with words, which led him to a decision that not many athletes would typically make. He enrolled as an English major, and soon enough he began entering elocution contests and winning. This was the light bulb moment he needed for his acting career. Life was shaping up for the star athlete. He had his talent for acting at the back of his mind, but life had different plans for that moment. In 1940, after his time in college, Connors played 4 baseball games with the Brooklyn Dodgers minor league team, the Newport Dodgers. In a way of kismet or fate, the dreams he had as a young boy on the streets of Brooklyn were coming to life. His life as a minor league baseball player was one of ups and downs. By the 1941 season, he was released from the Newport Dodgers, and then he went on to sign with the New York Yankees farm team, the Norfolk Tars, where he played 72 games. His baseball career was at an all-time high, but World War II was also on the rise. By October 1942, he had enlisted in the U.S. Army at Fort Knox, Kentucky. The war put his life as a baseball player on hold. He had gone from Fort Knox to West Point, where he trained soldiers in tank warfare. Through it all, his love for sports never waned. He still held on to the sport, and by the time he was discharged from the Army, he played for the Newport News Dodgers, the Mobile Bears, the Montreal Royals, and the Los Angeles Angels. After his discharge in 1946, Connors decided on a lifetime career, joining the Boston Celtics and making history as the first NBA player to break a backboard. His basketball career didn't get in the way of his baseball career. In 1949, he made his way to the major leagues with the Brooklyn Dodgers. His time with the Dodgers was brief, and by 1951, he went on to play for the Chicago Cubs, appearing in 66 games as a first baseman and pinch hitter. His time at the Los Angeles Angels was the moment of serendipity his life needed. He was sent down to this minor league club in the Pacific Coast League. For many players, this would have been a setback in their career. But for Connors, this was his biggest break yet. The Los Angeles Angels were right in the heart of Los Angeles. And Los Angeles wasn't just a city for baseball. It was also the greatest city for Hollywood. This was Connors' chance to make his jump from sports to the movie business, and he wasted no time going for it. Chuck Connors' life as a sportsman was already legendary. He was a rare talent that couldn't be found so often. He was one of 13 athletes in American history to have played in both the major leagues of baseball and the National Basketball Association. His dedication and love for sports took him to great heights, and even after he retired, he never let go of his passion for sports. His impact on the world of sports remains alive. After his sports career had begun to die down in 1966, Connors played an off-field role by helping to resolve a contract dispute between the Los Angeles Dodgers star pitchers Don Drysdale and Sandy Koufax. He acted as an intermediary during negotiations between management and the players, which led to the announcement of the pitchers' new contracts. All's well that ends, if you ask us, because Chuck Connors had gone from a legendary sports career to an even more legendary acting career. He had swapped his baseball boots and basketball hoops for acting. He realized that a career in professional sports wasn't for him, and a career in acting was where his heart was. He had the best of both worlds when it came to his career in sports and acting. While starting out in the hit Western show The Rifleman, Connors ensured that he infused some of his life experiences from sports into his newfound career. He invited legends like Don Drysdale and Duke Snider, as well as other notable sportsmen, to appear on his show. In a way, he was creating the perfect blend of both worlds. You might be wondering how he did it, how Chuck Connors was able to go from a baseball and basketball player to a world-famous actor. Without a doubt, it was an iconic shift that few sports stars could pull off. Chuck Connors' acting career. Playing baseball near Hollywood was one of the smartest moves Chuck Connors made. Not only was he able to play the sport he loved, but he was also doing it in very close proximity to the world's largest movie industry. His smart move led to being spotted by an MGM casting director. There he was, a 6'5" man with so much potential, and the casting director noticed this. Soon enough, he had landed a small role as a police captain in the 1952 sports-themed romantic comedy Pat and Mike, starring Katharine Hepburn and Spencer Tracy. This film featured several other famous athletes, but Connors was still able to stand out in a way that made people notice his penchant for acting. This was the sign Connors needed to shift his focus to acting, and luckily for him, Hollywood was more than ready to accommodate his skills. By 1953, he got a role starring opposite Burt Lancaster. He played the role of a rebellious Marine private in the action-comedy drama South Sea Woman, and then went on to play an American football coach in Trouble Along the Way, opposite John Wayne. Taking on these roles was only the first step in a series of many to come. He had proven to all concerned that he had the talent needed to become a great actor in the Hollywood industry. By the time the year 1957 rolled by, Chuck Connors had already made a mark and a name for himself in the film industry. He starred in the Disney classic Old Yeller, a film that remains legendary and remarkable to this very day. That same year, he also appeared in The Hired Gun, another legendary film that continues to stand the test of time. Even before he found his way into the world of acting, Chuck Connors was never one to be defined by one thing. He had chosen baseball and basketball, and this time he had chosen to be the best actor he could be. He was already excelling in his newfound job as an actor, and before he knew it, he landed the role of a lifetime. It was part of Lucas McCain's role in The Rifleman. Connors landed this role despite tough competition. There were about 40 other actors who wanted the role, but the role was a perfect fit for Connors, and he alone could have pulled it off so well. There he was, playing the role of a widowed rancher raising a son in the 1880s, and even though he had gone from sportsman to actor, this role fit Connors like a glove. The character McCain was written to be played by Connors. There was just something about the actor's physique, his charisma, and talent that made him the perfect choice. You would think he was chosen for this role from an audition alone, but it was his performance as Bern Sanderson in Old Yeller that put him on the map. When producers had seen him play the role of father figure so well on the big screen, they knew they had found the right man for the job. At first, Chuck Connors turned down the offer because the pay was just not as good as what he was earning from his time as a freelance actor. The producers couldn't let him go that easily, so they amped up the deal. offering him a higher salary and a rare 5% ownership stake in the show. This deal later became the best one Connors could have ever signed off on. The Rifleman was a huge success when it premiered in 1958. It was an instant hit, ranking number 4 in the Nielsen ratings from 1958 to 59, behind 3 other westerns. Talk about success. The show was brilliant and ahead of its time. It was the first television series to center on a single father raising a young child. The show was successful for many reasons. One major reason was the chemistry between Chuck Connors and Johnny Crawford as they played father and son. Johnny Crawford at the time was an unfamiliar actor, former Mouseketeer, baseball fan, and Western buff, just like Connors. He had beaten 40 other young stars for the role of Lucas's son Mark. The father-son chemistry between Connors and Crawford was the secret recipe that made the show a huge success. In a way, the fiction of it all was a reflection of Connors' personal life as a father of 4 boys. Connors was taking his new role quite seriously. He had learned to shoot and perform his stunts. This was a great initiative on his part, one that made working with a rifle an unforgettable part of the show. The title of the show wasn't just a facade. The character Connors played handled various impressive models of rifles that boosted the storyline in one way or another. The character, McCain, wielded a modified Winchester Model 1892 rifle, which was an anachronism for the show's 1880s setting. The rifle was also a part of the great visual of the show. It featured a lever-action modification which allowed Connors to pull off a rapid-fire trick in the opening credits. This trick blew the minds of viewers and gave Connors a boost to the point where she stood out from all the other usual cowboys on TV. Chuck Connors achieved an almost impossible feat when he transitioned from a life in sports to a life in acting in Hollywood. Not many baseball players could have managed that transition so seamlessly, but Connors did. To him, it came naturally even while living his life on the field before he was an actor. Connors was known as the Laurence Olivier of the Diamond. This was a nickname given to him by his teammates because of his dramatic reactions when called out on strikes. In a way, it is safe to say that the acting genes had lain dormant in his blood while he focused on his baseball career, but they couldn't stay dormant forever. Connors eventually found his place as an actor until he found the role of a lifetime in the famous show, The Rifleman. Chuck Connors' personal life and secrets. Chuck Connors portrayed the perfect man on screen through his role on The Rifleman, but in his personal life, he was far from perfect. His life was different from the good father he portrayed on TV, and this came as a shock to fans. His personal life was riddled with secrets that didn't correlate with the man fans had come to love. In a way, he was merely living the proverbial life of a celebrity. Chuck Connors' personal life closely mirrored his career as an actor. He had a lot going on in that department, as it was as dramatic as the movies he played in. In the public eye, he was an actor whose portrayal of a certain character in The Rifleman was beloved by all, but in real life, his life couldn't have been any further from the characters he portrayed. Behind all the cameras and lights, his relationships could be described as a roller coaster, thanks to the scandals and conflicts that constantly surrounded them. His first marriage was to Elizabeth Jane Riddell Connors. They met at one of his baseball games in the year 1948. They fell in love quickly, and by that same year, they had gotten married. As time went on, they expanded their family tree, having 4 sons. At first, they seemed to be the perfect couple and family, but as Connors' acting career took off, his time at home did the complete opposite as he began to spend less time with his family. That was when the rumor mills began to spread. There were rumors about his infidelity and all his affairs outside of his marriage. By 1961, Elizabeth had had enough of it all when she discovered that he had been involved with another actress. In her fury and discernment, Elizabeth filed for divorce from the popular actor. They decided to keep things civil in public, but in private, things were a complete disaster. Behind closed doors, their split was anything but civil. And there were even reports of Elizabeth threatening to expose details of his affairs unless he agreed to her terms of the divorce. However, Connors didn't let the failure of his first marriage stop him from finding love again. By 1963, he got married again, this time to Kamala Devi. He had starred with her in Geronimo, and a year later they got married. Kamala Devi was an Indian-born actress, and their relationship caught the attention of Hollywood. At the time, interracial marriages weren't the most popular, so this part of their relationship ensured that their relationship stood out in the entertainment industry. As the 1960s rolled in, It was clear as day that Connors and Devi were Hollywood's power couple. They had starred in various projects together, including Branded, Cowboy in Africa, and Broken Saber, among others. Their marriage was off to a great start, and soon enough, the external forces came into play. For one, Kamala wanted Connors to explore more classic roles, but Connors wasn't one to be put in a box. He was loyal to the Western image he had created for himself, and he wasn't deviating anytime soon. Their marriage was on the rocks, and soon enough, their career differences were catching up to them. The differences they had began to break things up between them, and after 9 years, they got divorced in 1972. Their last film together was The Proud and Damned, and at that time it seemed to be a reflection of their failing relationship. Connor met his third wife, Faith Quabius, when they both appeared in the film Soylent Green in 1973. Their chemistry was off the charts, and even though the actress was 33 years younger than he was, that didn't stop the couple from tying the knot in 1977. To bystanders and outsiders, it seemed as though Chuck Connors had finally found his perfect match and forever connection, but that wasn't the case. Before the 3-year mark, their marriage seemed to have already lost its spark as they were headed for divorce. Faith Quabius later opened up about their failed marriage. She claimed that Connors had been verbally and physically mean, and she blamed his bad behavior on his heavy drinking. Connors denied the allegations, but this scandal had already put a dent in his public image. By 1979, their divorce was finalized. It was the end of yet another marriage for Chuck Connors, but not the end of his romantic rendezvous and affairs. Surrounding Connors were rumors of secret relationships. There were even rumors that he had a long-term affair in the 1960s and even fathered a child outside his marriage. Huge, right? The rumors remained rumors, but there was no doubt about it. Chuck Connors was a well-known Casanova. He would flirt with women while on movie sets. His reputation preceded him, so much so that popular actress Joan Crawford commented on his ability to charm the birds from trees, but he could never stay loyal to one branch. While it might seem like fun and games, this reputation cost him some roles because some actresses refused to work with him. Chuck Connors didn't seem to take any of his marriages or relationships seriously. Soon enough, his secret affairs became less of a secret. He would have affairs and not even hide them. To him, he was the great Chuck Connors, and he didn't care what people thought of him. He acted as though rules didn't apply to him because he could get away with anything. After all, he was the great Rifleman. Fans began to realize that the cat was out of the bag, and Chuck Connors was not the man they thought he was. On screen, he played a good man and a good father, but in reality, he wasn't a family man, and his infidelity in his past marriages had hurt a lot of people, including his children, who felt like their father wasn't there for them. This was a huge departure from the Chuck Connors people knew. People began to second-guess their love for the actor. On camera, he was one person, and behind the scenes, he was a completely different person. Chuck Connors never spoke about his personal life in public. He tried to maintain his good guy persona, even though many people already knew about his behavior. However, it wasn't until after he passed away that the secrets were truly revealed. People began to find out just how much he had cheated on his wives, and just how different his character was from what he portrayed. Connors' personal life was even more complicated because of his political stances. He was deeply involved in politics and outspoken in his views, which often led to clashes with the industry in which he worked. During the Vietnam War, when many protested the involvement of the U.S., Connors was on the other side of history as he took a firm pro-war stance. He marched in pro-military parades and openly supported Republican candidates. He also backed Barry Goldwater in the 1964 United States presidential election, a move that further alienated him from the liberal side of Hollywood. His political stances saw him turn down jobs because he would rather lose a job than compromise his principles. One of the most shocking parts of Connors' life was marked in 1973 when he was caught in the middle of Cold War diplomacy. Leonid Brezhnev, the leader of the Soviet Union, visited Washington, D.C., and one of his requests was to meet Chuck Connor. He was a big fan of the actor, and The Rifleman was one of the few American TV shows allowed on Soviet television. The Soviet leader also happened to be a big fan of the Hollywood star. The meeting was exactly what you would expect it to be. Connors and Brezhnev shook hands and embraced one another. The crowd laughed and clapped throughout. Later, at a party given by President Richard Nixon, Connors presented Brezhnev with a pair of Colt single-action army revolvers, which Brezhnev delighted in. This meeting evolved into something more. as Connors soon became an unofficial cultural ambassador between the U.S. and the Soviet Union. The actor made visits to Moscow to see the leader of the Union, and in Moscow he was treated like a national hero. His political involvement was one thing, and his Hollywood career was another. His conservative views, paired with his scandalous personal life, kept him on the outside of Hollywood, but he never once regretted any of his actions. The final years of his life were marked by his public appearances, which celebrated the legacy he had so diligently built. However, behind the scenes, his health was not great. In his personal life, he had developed a habit of smoking 3 packs of cigarettes a day, a lifestyle choice that had been to his detriment. By the year 1992, doctors had delivered a lung cancer diagnosis to the TV legend. He initially kept this diagnosis private, but as time went on, his condition deteriorated, and he was hospitalized at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles. He was unfortunately suffering from complications of both cancer and pneumonia. After a 13-day battle for his life, the great TV star passed away on the 10th of November 1992. He was 71 years old. The whole world of fans, fellow entertainers, and athletes was at a loss. People mourned the man they had grown up watching, and tributes poured in from people who had worked with him over the years. His impact was undoubtedly incredible. Not only was he popular in the world of television, but also in the world of sports, as he remained one of only 13 athletes in history to have played in both Major League Baseball and the National Basketball Association. This was a remarkable achievement, and it spoke of his talent and hard-working nature. In the history of television, he also accomplished another rare achievement. He changed the way television portrayed fatherhood, especially at a time when most family shows portrayed a more traditional aspect of family, with 2 parents in a household. The Rifleman was a breath of fresh air, as it portrayed the ups and downs of a single father raising a son by himself. To date, The Rifleman remains one of the best father-son relationships portrayed on television. It is still a show that people continue to enjoy and love. Through this show, the legend of Chuck Connors lives on. While secrets and controversy marred his personal life, he still left a lasting impact on the world and led a fulfilling career. When asked if he had any regrets about his life, Chuck Connors famously responded, saying he lived life on his terms. He stated that some people didn't approve, but he had no regrets. No matter the secrets carved into the story of Chuck Connors' life, no one can deny that he was a man who built a strong legacy, not just in the television industry, but also in the world of sports. And this legacy continues to live on. The big revelation people had come to find out about the great Chuck Connors was that behind his charming smile and confident persona, his personal life was riddled with turmoil. He was successful to his core, stood out in the entertainment industry, married and divorced 3 times, and while he had 4 sons, his relationship with them was the opposite of the stellar father-son relationship he had portrayed through his character on TV. Chuck Connors' legacy will never be forgotten. In fact, it lives on even with the new generation. Some know him for his remarkable role in The Rifleman. Others are shocked by the secrets of his personal life. But one thing remains: he made an impact on the world. You didn't know this part of Chuck Connors' life, did you? If you loved this story and the revelations, leave a comment and share your thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more enthralling videos like this. Before you go, watch the other videos on your screen.